Hello, true believers! In case you haven't noticed, it's been just over a full year since I started making videos more frequently after getting sick of having a real job and marketable skills. And to celebrate my 1 year anniversary, I'd like to take a look back at that first thing I made. I've always had a few criticisms of the cultural Marxism video. It's very clear I'm poorly mastering audio recorded on a Blue Yeti in a very echoey spare room. What was I thinking with that hairstyle? And worst of all, I feel like I might have accidentally strawmanned some people. I directly compared everyone who talked about cultural Marxists to the fascist literal Nazis who invented the term, and the BNP youth who happened to include them in their list that happened to include even more direct anti-Semitism. And that's just not fair. Maybe I should go back and reassess some of these folks and see if there's a little more nuance to their beliefs. Let's check out the Golden One. What's he been up to these days? He made that video about how the cultural Marxists are teaming up with the leftist Beh-tas to destroy the family using a sledgehammer and by demanding more medals in April 2015. He's had even longer to develop creatively and intellectually than I have. So let's give this bloke another shot and see where his arguments have led him. Oh! So after checking out his more recent work, the through line hasn't really progressed in the year and change since his cultural Marxism video. He's just got more overt about liking fascism and nationalism and being an alpha and not liking the leftist Beh-tas and Jews.
Today I want to discuss the JQ, the Jewish question.
Okay, now let's be clear here, folks. Mr. The Golden doesn't hate Jews per se.
There is a large difference between the international Jewish community, or aka international Jewry, and the Jewish individual.
Oh, I see what he's going for here. He's not mad at individual Jews, just the vague conspiracy he made up that he also targets explicitly for its Jewishness. How could anyone confuse that with anti-Semitism?
Now, a lot of mere mortals with a pleb-tier understanding of the world say like, oh, Hitler hated Jews. No, he actually didn't.
The Golden One then goes on to elaborate by explaining how Hitler wasn't an anti-Semite either and he was just doing the same oh no.
Hitler's battle was against international Jewry, international finance. That is what that was about. It was not some sort of ethnic hatred.
Yeah, I'm sure all this imagery the Nazi propaganda machine put out actually has a really subtle point to make about international finance. How could he possibly be racist if he's not against physical Jews, but just the vague concept of bad people which he happens to keep calling Jews? That's not racism. It just looks like it, and sounds like it, and definitely is. I'm not downplaying the genetic component of the National Socialist time. Alas, to focus on that part takes away the focus on the more interesting topic of international banking and a debt-based economy. I am interested in the Adolf Hitler due to his economic policies. I am not concerned with the racial policies. And he is kind of right. Hitler's economic policy was pretty good. He reduced unemployment by opening up lots of new job openings. I wonder how he did that! I think you can tell a lot about a person's true politics from their priorities. For example, this video where he spends 8 minutes defending Richard Spencer's right to do the Sieg Heil salute without anyone judging him.
And they say, you can't do this, what will I do then? Yes, I will say, you know what, fuck you, I'm gonna do whatever I want to do. And then I throw up my arm in a Roman salute. Freedom
of speech is great, precisely because when you look at someone and you see them choosing to use their freedom to defend the Hitler salute, you know who you're dealing with.
I don't do it as a sign of hate to anyone. If you ever see me doing a Roman salute, it is not aimed at you. It is not a sign of hate to you. It's a sign for me to say to myself and to everyone else, and especially to the establishment, that, you know what, you have no power over me.
If you have to keep telling people with the Hitler salute that you don't care what they think about you, then you do. You know that kid in high school who would go around constantly telling everyone that he doesn't care what they think about him, almost as if he cares a little bit too much? I'm getting that same weird insecurity vibe, but from a 26-year-old bodybuilder. And that's just a bit sad. The flexing thing wasn't a one-off, by the way. He opens a lot of videos like that.
Greetings, true friends.
You can tell this guy's not a feminist because, well, it was a Nazi, but also because he seems to love to objectify himself and reduce himself to just a body, you know? Which, to be fair, is a little bit easier than forming a personality. I mean, if the ideas you spout aren't very good, you might as well look good doing it, right? I've always wanted to be on the front cover of a Chuck Tingle book, and thanks to the inspirational words of a Swedish racist, I'm well on my way. While I'm pumping my lats, or my tries, or whatever this bit is, let's check out his website. TheGoldenOne.se. Honor the gods, love your woman, defend your country. Check out my Instagram! Oh boy, the Golden One's reading list. Oh hey, he's read The Way of Men by Jack Donovan, or at least posed with it in front of his arm sep. I wonder where he saw that book being advertised. Oh yeah, Western civilization bites back. Because when I think of Western civilization, I personify it as animals from Africa that never founded a society or built any houses. Last I checked, tigers haven't even learned how to open Etsy stores yet. Wow, a lot of fiction books about made-up fantasy battles here. Lots of fake magic wars going on in the Golden One's library. Not a lot of political philosophy. Or any. He used to be sponsored by various products, but as they slowly realised that he's a complete monster, they dropped their sponsorship. And he has some very strong words to say about the Jews behind this. I mean, it's not the I'm not racist!
Mark Lobliner, he's Jewish, but he has never said anything against my political views. And I see so many people, you know, coming with anti-Jewish sentiments towards him just because he is Jewish. And now, realize this, that there is a huge difference between the Internationale Clique, aka Global...
Hang on, is he doing the speech again? Is he doing the exact same... Hang on, wait a second.
There is a large difference between the international Jewish community and the Jewish individual.
Weird. He has to keep reminding his people it's not right to be anti-Semitic. Almost as if nationalism and racism come from the same place. Almost. He later goes on to say he didn't like how the product was American-made, so there were shipping costs, and he would rather recommend products that ship everywhere easily.
I want a company that is a bit more global, so that, you know, no one wants to use my affiliate link to buy a supplement, and then, you know, there's tariffs and long delivery dates, etc. So I'd rather have a supplement company, if I'm gonna work with anyone, that is a bit more global.
But I thought international globalists were the bad guys? I'm beginning to think that nationalism doesn't work. It's the leftists, you see. Leftists love to project. They think they see sexism everywhere. Now here's a video about how Miley Cyrus is spreading degeneracy with her twerk.
Today I want to elaborate on something of utmost decadence. And that is the transformation of Miley Cyrus. The transformation which took place can serve as a metaphor for what is being done to the Western women. So they took this beautiful young feminine girl and turned her into this. And like feminists, as third wave cultural Marxist feminists, they are not concerned with the emancipation of women. Do you honestly think this is a more powerful and prosperous and happy woman than this is?
That's right, that's what feminism wants. Shut it down, girls. The Golden One's figured it out.
And no, I don't think it is any thing that just happened out of thin air. I think it was a plan of the, I don't know, owners of Hollywood to take this beautiful girl and just reduce her. A bit like in Batman, where they take Harvey Dent, the best and bravest of them, and reduce him to a murderer or something.
Oh yeah, it's just like in Batman. Oh. The patriarchy doesn't exist, but cultural Marxism is everywhere, and look what it did to Hannah Montana!
We do not want to reduce our women into sex objects.
Yes, wouldn't it be terrible if your ideology reduced you to a sex object? A short time after making a 6-minute video about how a woman's provocative clothes are threatening to destroy the precious Western civilization tigers, he seems to have realised that a lot of nationalists look like they hate women and women having bodily autonomy. I wonder where people get that impression.
Now, I've seen quite a bit of anti-female sentiments, and this is something I wanted to address.
When 60% of women voted against Austria's far-right candidate in a recent election and people were getting, weird about it, he put out a video trying to give his fellow true believers a word of advice.
And it really disturbs me with this sort of really severe anti-female rhetoric. If you're a nationalist, you cannot harbor anti-female sentiments.
You see, there's a big difference between international womanry and the individual woman. Oh no, wait, that's the other thing, sorry.
Nationalism means that you love your people, and if you hate half of your people, then yeah, that's kind of not congruent with each other. So if you're serious about being a nationalist, you cannot harbor anti-female sentiments. What you can, however, do is, just like I have, a major issue with degeneracy emanating from Hollywood and the mainstream culture and feminism. Those are the sort of things we must combat.
Remember kids, it's only okay to get angry at vague concepts like degeneracy, feminism, and bad things. I hate bad things the most. Those are the worst. Only nationalism can stop bad things. Oh fuck, this is hard. Oh Jesus Christ.
They're not gonna go for the guy who sits and like, oh, all of these other people are so mean and women, they are so stupid. They will not vote for that guy, and you're actively pushing women away from the larger movement. So you're doing a disservice with all these anti-female sentiments.
Listen mate, I don't want to harsh your buzz or anything, but I'm pretty sure the fact you have to remind your fellow nationalists that misogyny is bad is pretty telling, don't you think? You might want to consider that.
Drop the anti-female sentiments.
He's trying to advise his fellow white nationalists that it's not right to be pissed off at the majority of women who voted against nationalism. You're supposed to love your country and its people, after all. This is really the core contradiction of nationalist populism and why complaints about cultural Marxism or international Jews or leftist feminist corruption are so important to them. Nationalists love to pretend they love their countries. It's supposedly a core tenet of their beliefs. But when you pay close attention to what they're saying, you realise they hate almost everything about their country, and even imagine made-up things to hate about it too. And isn't one of the central tenets of the West freedom, of choice and of speech to do and say what you want? The existence of people who make radically different choices from you is proof that society is free, not that it's broken. The Golden One at least pretends to like freedom and democracy, but believes there should only be one vote per household. So he even thinks an individual's right to vote should be taken away. But how can a nationalist who supposedly loves Western civilization reconcile this with their hatred for almost all of its freedoms and the choices other people have made with them? Simple. They invent and fetishize an imaginary prelapsarian version of their country that never existed, where everyone was strong and beautiful and acted how they wanted them to, straight out of the good times before the fall in the Bible or any given fantasy novel. They love this made-up version of their country, not the actual country they live in. But despite saying you're supposed to love your people, he openly believes that people don't listen to reasonable arguments.
Everyone knows that I love fantasy. I love Warhammer and I love Lord of the Rings, Skyrim, The Witcher. It's a pure fantasy that you think that you can just come in with these reasonable arguments and change people's opinions. Humans are not like that at all. You can have, in the fantasy world, a couple of elves sitting around having a reasonable discussion. Humans aren't like that, women aren't like that, men aren't like that.
That doesn't sound like loving your people at all. That sounds like you don't even trust them to think for themselves. He's accidentally summed up nationalist populism better than me by saying that he wishes life was a lot more like one of his fantasy books. And that's not to say that liking fiction inherently makes you dumb, by the way. I'm bench pressing a giant bag of Marvel comics right now. It's not that liking fiction is inherently bad for you. Quite the opposite. It's important to be something of a dreamer, in my opinion. It's just that if you allow works of fiction to fully comprise your worldview of how the world should actually be, that can have some dangerous external effects, like supporting nationalism or dangerous neoliberalism or liking the Marvel movies. All three of those things are equally as bad. Speaking of fact and evidence, it kind of goes without saying that he's really not very good at the whole evidence thing. In a video entitled "Why Sex Was Better 100 Years Ago, Feminism and Porn Are Enemies," he cites one article.
And there's been a study which proves that people with right-wing views have better sex.
He doesn't show what website it's from though, seemingly cutting off the title on purpose as if he knows it'll give away it's false. Also, even the Telegraph article points out that the data shows that in some places it doesn't Look, basically that's fucking bullshit, alright? He doesn't link the survey or demonstrate an understanding of the survey's methodology, who does that remind you of, and concludes based purely on this and some of his cartoon elf dwarf dragon man books that sex was better before feminism and porn.
And what we have to realize with sex also is that it's not primarily a physically pleasing activity.
Yeah, if you're bad at it, Jesus fucking Christ.
First and foremost, we can discuss what sex is. Sex is a transaction of power.
Oh, talk dirty to me, Golden One. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's getting good now. Any worms out there want to have a transaction of power? Oh, Jesus, my fucking arms.
Now, however, he more or less needs the written permit to initiate any sort of sexual contact with his wife or girlfriend. Now, obviously, I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean.
You know, it kind of denigrates your position when you admit that your example is exaggerated. Like, oh, the states invaded our bedrooms because we decided it was good to ask for consent. It's Orwell's nightmare! So look, maybe this guy's ideas about sex and relationships aren't very well researched or based in reality, but that hasn't stopped him from making like a dozen videos on how to date women and talk to them and act like a real manly man. If I ever need any dating advice, and what are the odds of that, I'll look you up, but right now I'm haggard. All this exercise has made me thirsty. Maybe he should stop reading quite so many fiction books, and I don't just mean the ones with dragons in them, and read some, like, actual books as well. Eventually he might get to Lucian David Meck's books about wolf behaviour. That's right, we're at the part of the video where I actually went away and did some fucking research. Now you're in my wheelhouse, motherfucker! The Wolf, The Ecology and Behaviour of an Endangered Species, was the book which popularised the idea of alpha-beta pack mentality among wolves, which MRAs like to pretend also happens in humans without any data. But there's one problem. A lot of the data Meck was drawing from was based on wolf behaviour in captivity. You know, when you throw a bunch of captured wolves together in a controlled space to see how they act.
It's appropriate to use the term alpha in an artificial pack where you know, you might put many wolves from different assemblages together, unrelated wolves and that kind of thing, but that rarely happens in the wild, if ever.
Further research over the years, including further books written by Meck afterwards, show that in reality the male and female leaders of a pack are the leaders because they're the parents of the rest of the pack, not because they're alphas who fought the hardest and drank the most protein shakes. So not even wolves act like MRAs think people act. There is, however, the hilarious side effect that self-proclaimed alphas are effectively bragging at how self-important they would act if you locked them in a cage. Which is good to know, since, as you're well aware, that's the goal of feminism. And like all reasonable adults, he likes to roleplay the murder of people who disagree with him in a video game.
How nice. Open up this episode by killing this this apprentice of the Frankfurt School.
No, I'm not kidding. He has this Let's Play of Skyrim where he runs around killing dudes and says, well, I guess they were a feminist.
Here's another one of those feminists who don't believe in the patriarchy.
I've always felt pretty secure in my masculinity, please don't laugh. But apparently if I get any more secure, I'll start killing imaginary leftists in a video game.
This is a Hillary Clinton supporter. Make Skyrim great again.
It's important not to recognise this guy as a dangerous threat to society. He's really not. He's a sad idiot seeking refuge in obnoxious, preening self-aggrandizement for attention and to fabricate a sense of self-worth. Sure, his ideas are ostensibly dangerous, but he channels these ideas into the harmless place of making dumb videos for the internet, shilling cartoon fantasy novels, and screaming about how great killing feminists is over Skyrim.
This guy is a male feminist.
I honestly can't believe that, like, I don't like the idea that I'm strawmanning people, and here he is going, no, I'm made of straw, I'm killing fake feminists in the video. It's very easy to convince yourself this man is somehow dangerous, but that's probably what he wants you to think. That would make him worth paying attention to.
and you really shouldn't bother. Sound and thunder don't often signify very much. It's not a crime to be a psychotic weirdo over video game footage, and thank God for that. If this is the best his philosophy has to offer, then leftists like us have already won. We've so fully cucked the alphas that they sit at their computers filming themselves playing video games and ranting about how great their ideas would be if they got around to doing anything. I joked earlier about how alpha mentality only formed in cages, but look, it really has. They caged themselves.
And by the way, if you're annoyed that companies stop sponsoring you because they don't like the implications that your beliefs will have on their product and its values, you're not actually angry at leftists or degeneracy, you're angry at the free market. And now you're talking my language! Let's take society back for the people, comrade! The only way we know how! Us alphas, that's a thing that's real.
Well, it's been a very fun first year, friendos. On top of the names scrolling past the screen right now, I'd especially like to thank Alex Lemkovich, Alexander Corbett, Ali Bushell, Alicia Parker Martell, Amy Lech, Aquila, I always get this wrong, Ash Stryker, Ben Adamson, Big Cheesin, Bill Mock, Billy Layden, Brennan Arts, Cubert, Caleb McMurphy, Casey Schneibel, Kieran, Connor, Corwin Light Williams, Damien Edney, David DeMarzalu, David Kenner, David Rose, David the Benevolent Malevolence, Ed Costigan, Emily O, Eric Hunter, Eugene Butler, Evan Ritchie, Femininja, Findlay Bewick Copley, Fruit, Grafen Blackpaw, Haruspicus SA, Hero Rewar, Jack Harvey, Jan Anders, Jason Walter, Jay Logan, Jeff Ladd, Jeffrey Theobald, John Cantwell, Jordan Tullis, Joseph Greco, Cav Sile, Cav P, Kevin M. Knippi, Christina Downs, Lady Naga, Layden Pierce, Lissandro Suarez, Luke Gould, Mackenzie Cockerill, Magnus, Malarkey Bingo, Marco Shard, Mr. Xenophobe, Mans Silverplatz Thunstrom, oh god I'm so sorry, Neverminder, Niels Abildgaard, Olivia Mello, Owen Piper, Rebecca Washam, Recovering Zombie, Renee S., Robert Phillips, Samael, Sammy J., Scott Gertin, Sean Kemp, Siegfried, Slayer of the Immortal Dragon, Silas Pumpkins, Spilt Coffee, Stefan Lindberg, Stephanie Aldrich, Thad Weselowski, Thomas Johansson, Jenny Angel, Young Cowrie, Zachariah Taylor, Zachary Chen, I Am Turnip, Parker Anderson, and Rikami. I'd also like to thank Max Woodhams for producing the music track I used for my opening theme, and then graciously giving me the MP3 after I heard it and insisted he let me use it. I think he originally was going to use it for a piece of music that he never finished, so I'm really glad he let me just steal it and put it in my videos.
Pizzagate is the stuff of nightmares.
Fuck off.